Hello, my name is Peter Parfitt and welcome to the New Brick Workshop. Now this is a catch-up video just to correct one error I made on a recent video and just to let you know a couple of other things that have been going on. It's a very short video just to let you know what I'm up to. Now the first thing I want to mention is, do you remember ages ago I bought an old Penbrook table from an auction? Well, I've started to recycle parts of it, and part of the top, one of the flaps, I've cleaned up and it's produced the most lovely piece of mahogany. In fact, this is what's left of that flap, because a lot of the other pieces have gone towards some experiments that I'm doing with my template cutting using the new Tracksaw cutting station. And I'll show you a little bit about this in a minute. But this is the sort of thing I'm now producing. It's the handle end of a tray. And it's not finished, of course, but I'm just showing you, and that's done with a handheld router. Now, there's been a lot of talk on the internet about the accuracy of the CSC SIS saw, and there are two elements that need to be investigated. Now, some people have had an issue with the fence on their CSC SIS 50, and I must confess I was one of them. And what happened was, when you tightened it up, then it was no longer parallel to the blade. In my case, it went that way slightly. I'm not going to undo it now because the saw is all set up, but there's the T-piece at the end here, and on this side of it, if you remove it, there is a little grub screw, and that allows you to adjust the angle that the fence sits on the table. I've adjusted mine, and perhaps you would have noticed it was absolutely perfect when I just did that cut. Now, I will be making a video about adjustments and little tweaks you can do to the CSC SIS 50, but not for a little while. Now, sometimes it can be difficult owning up to your mistakes, but thanks to this person on YouTube, I don't mind owning up to this. You remember when I did the 4-cut, 5-cut test on the new Tracksaw cutting station, the ultimate Tracksaw cutting station? I came up with a figure and I said it was about 0.36 millimeters out over a meter. Well, I was wrong, and here's the correct calculation to see what the error is over the distance of 1 meter. Now, we took the figure of the difference between the two measurements as 0.15 over that distance, which was 415, and then we divided by 4 in order to get the error over a single cut, because there were 4 cuts and that was the error after 4 cuts. That's 4 times the error. So that is 0.15 divided by 415 divided by 4 equals. And that gives you a figure of 0.00009, and that is the angular error in radians. Now, there's a well-known and very accurate geometrical approximation with small angles measured in radians. If you look at this triangle, then the angle, which I've called x, measured in radians, approximates to the tangent of that angle, which is the length A over the length B. And so if the distance away, that's length B, is 1 meter, then the amount of error we have with our Tracksaw cutting station is given by that tangent of that angle in radians, and that is 0.0903. So therefore the error over a cut length of 1 meter is less than 0.1 of a millimeter. It is 0.09 of a millimeter. Now that's pretty fantastic, isn't it? Anyway, thanks very much for letting me know, and I've put a note to this on the video. Now, if you want to protect your top, and in my case I do, for one particular reason, I'm drilling 3mm holes, and I've got a whole bunch of 3mm holes in this top for later use, or potential later use, and so what I don't want to do is have some additional holes which would confuse me. I am easily confused these days. Anyway, so you've got two choices. One is you can just flip the top, or you can put an old top on or something else sacrificial on top of it. Now, I have been asked how I support my tops, and I said to the person who inquired that I would show how it's done in a video. It's quite simple. I've got a pair of trestles, and you can see if I lift this gently that the trestle has a U-shaped section here. And I have got a video about this. I'll try and put a link to that somewhere for you to see. And into that trough goes a piece of wood which goes that way. And then the same with a second trestle here. And then across the two trestles, screwed into this piece of wood, are three cross members. Now ignore my little mobile cart which is underneath here. That's for all my very small odds and ends of scrap wood, and also my true scrap pile there, which I donate to someone who's got a wood burning stove. So that's what goes on underneath, and as I said earlier, you can either flip your top or put an old one on. I'm going to put an old one on. Now if as you get older you find it a bit awkward moving larger pieces of material like this, you can slide it into a position, and then what you need is the ability to grab hold of it and quickly raise it up. And so I put a couple of these clamps which came from Axminster, which is made lifting it up very easy. And I think lots of other people make these clamps as well. As you would have gathered from the video where I made this new Tracksaw cutting station, it's designed to make jig work easier. And I'm just going to give you an insight into what I'm practicing at the moment. Eventually there'll be a proper video that shows the whole process, but I'll just give you an idea. I've got a wasteboard which I've created, and I've created it using the path guide system, and I've got a set of 3mm holes, all correctly proportioned and so on. And I've made some of them bigger into 20mm holes. So that's my wasteboard. Now I've got a jig which is here, and again I will show, this is a prototype, I will show how to go about making one of these. I made this on the CNC, and the reason I did that was, although I was happy enough to produce that curve by hand, it's this curve, the hand-told curve, that I don't have a template for. Now I know that some people will be able to get hold of templates this shape, so you could do the whole lot using ordinary woodworking techniques, but this one, and I'm afraid probably the one that I'll use in the actual video, will be created on a CNC. Eventually I will provide the drawings for this so that you could go and visit your local CNC chap and say, would you make me up one of these? It wouldn't cost very much. So there's my template, and my stock is oversized, in other words it's slightly too long and it's a fraction too wide, and that's going to fit into the jig, and I've got some reference holes here for holding it down, and you notice I've got a couple of brass pegs there which then locate it, and these end pieces also help to locate it. And the idea is that this would be fixed onto the setup. I'll be using these anchor dogs here and here, and at each end I'll be using taller anchor dogs which will hold this in place, and these just go through the whole caboodle. So that's now got that absolutely firmly in place, and then you'll notice these are countersunk holes, and these then go down through. Those are in place, and this whole surface is now flush. This cannot move because these two screws go all the way through there. And the idea is now that this is held in place, I can now do the routing of this curve, and then I'd remove these two screws, and we'd remove the two brass pins, and all we now do is, having flipped this, put this back into that position, get that screw going in there just a little bit, and now we just return this to there. And now the jig's been flipped, the piece of wood is actually in the same place, and we can now cut this hole. And the whole idea is that you can then have a little production line of doing these. So you've got 6 trays or however many you want to produce, do them all in one go, and it will be very, very much quicker than do them individually. And I know one can cut these pieces out on a CNC time after time after time. Well, that's fine, but if you don't have a CNC in your workshop, you need to find another way of doing it. The only trip to the CNC would be when you ask your friend to make up this template. More of that in a separate video at another time. And here's some old templates that I've created in the past. I've always done this top bit by hand, but the middle bit here has always been quite tricky. So these old templates are going in the bin now. I'm going to continue my work on the new template system, and then I'm going to produce a video all about it. Many thanks for watching. Take care. Bye-bye.